Hi everyone, I just got finished editing part 2 of my Gamescom opening night live ceremony reveal reactions. We covered a lot of really cool Nintendo games. However, when I was editing the episode, I realized that the section on the Lego Batman reveal ended up being like 40 minutes long or something like that. Some of you will know that I'm a game dev myself, and turns out I had a lot to say about the history of Traveller's Tales, John Burton, and the Lego series in general. Some of you may also know that I work in the film industry, including on superhero movies. And again, I had some more context that I thought was interesting and some film industry stories. And on top of this, I'm an enormous lifelong Batman fan. And I remembered a cute story about my mum's early years too. Basically, I felt there wasn't a way to edit it down without removing stuff that some people might find interesting or that I personally like sharing and putting out into the world. But also, I'm aware that not everyone wants to hear me ramble on for 40 minutes about stuff only tangentially related to one specific game during an episode meant to be covering many announcements. So, I've chopped it out for a separate full episode, and that's what you have here. I'll talk about Batman, Traveller's Tales, my hopes for the game, then show my live reaction to the trailer, my immediate thoughts after watching it. I hope you find it interesting. I know that these industry stories aren't for everyone, but it's fun for me to talk about this stuff, and for some people, it's actually why they subscribe in the first place. So I'm separating it out so that people can choose whether they want to listen to this particular part or not. And you want to know the funny part? I spent 40 odd minutes talking about Lego games and Batman films, and I forgot to talk about the 3 previous Lego Batman games. Yeah, they were good. I bought and played the first one on Wii, played a bit with my son, and the third one on Wii U, again, played with both my kids, both at launch. I enjoyed them a lot, but I didn't buy the second one. As I say in the full video, there was a while where there were tons of Lego games releasing very quickly one after the other, and they were all quite similar, so I didn't get around to that one. I didn't buy into Lego Dimensions either. I was very tempted because so many cool series that I genuinely love, and I wanted the toys, but I didn't want to get trapped into another Toys to Life cycle, being stuck in the middle of building a complete collection of Disney Infinity 1, 2, and 3 that worked out very expensive, but the autistic part of my brain doesn't allow me to have an incomplete collection. Once I start buying, I keep buying more. But yeah, anything I say about those Lego games that happen after Lego Star Wars can basically apply to the earlier Lego Batman games. But the recent Skywalker Saga game being so good makes me definitely want the same thing, but with Batman movies. This particular game is a no-brainer for me, and I am really hyped. Okay, let's roll the clip. Next up was Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight, which is coming to the Switch 2 and not the Switch 1. So that is the first announcement of the main opening night show that is for Switch 2 and not coming out on Switch 1 only. We've had some which were coming out on Switch 1 and not the Switch 2, but obviously this is the Daily Switch 2 podcast, and I'm always saying that for the sake of the industry, even though I completely understand as a collector and also as an indie dev myself, I understand that it's so much easier to release physical indie games on Switch 1 right now. Switch 2, there's all kinds of problems with releasing indie games and third-party games, especially if you don't want to charge like a very high price. If you want to come in at that kind of $30 price point or something like that, that's nigh on impossible at the moment on the Switch 2, but they are working on ways around it, so hopefully we will be able to, because again, for my own games, I'm definitely going to be releasing Switch 1 versions. I want to release Switch 2 versions. At the moment it's not possible, but we're trying to work out ways around it. But I always say that for me, for the sake of the industry and for the sake of the console itself, I hope that we get more and more games which are on Switch 2 which are not on Switch 1, because the Switch 1 is one of the biggest selling consoles of all time, like 150 million odd units. A lot of people are waiting to upgrade, you know, and if you got all these games and the majority of the games that people want to play, yeah, they can play it on the Switch 2, but they can also play it on the Switch 1, which they already own. that doesn't give people a reason to upgrade. So you need more and more and more Switch 2 exclusive games. Now, obviously, Lego Batman is not going to be an exclusive game to the Switch 2 in the sense it's not a console exclusive. It will be out on PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC. But for Nintendo players who only own a Switch, yeah, if you want to play this game, you're going to have to get a Switch 2. So that's a great thing. And it's not just for the sake of selling more consoles and for it's if you don't have to worry about making a Switch 1 version, then you can just concentrate on getting the nice graphics and pushing the power of the Switch 2. You don't have to worry about, making a lower quality version that will run on the Switch 1. So a game that comes out on the Switch 2 and not the Switch 1 is likely to have better performance and better graphics. We don't have a release date for it yet. It just said 2026. The full title, I can't remember whether I've said it. The full title is Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight. It's from TT Games. For those that don't know, TT is what used to be Traveller's Tales. Traveller's Tales was the company. It's been around since the very early 90s. John Burton was the founder of Traveller's Tales, or co-founder. I don't know if it was just his solo company to begin with, or whether it was him and other people. To be honest, I don't know. But yeah, John Burton of Game Hut, the YouTube channel, he often talks about development and game dev and that kind of stuff. In my opinion, certainly back in the day on the 16, 32, 64-bit systems, John Burton, one of the best programmers to ever live. He started off in the Amiga, or maybe even on the Commodore 64, I can't remember, but certainly in the Amiga demo scene. And for those who weren't around at the time or don't know, the demo scenes were basically people sharing demos for free on BBS, like bulletin boards and things, which was like the early days of the internet before kind of www and Google and everything became the standard. People could connect their old style microcomputers like the Commodore Amiga and Atari ST. You could connect to bulletin boards, which were like news pages that people could upload something to this news page, and everybody could download it if they wanted. And the demo scene was basically people in their bedrooms would just try and outcompete each other to who could be the best programmer and who could make the most impressive graphical demos, as just showing off this is the bleeding edge of how far you can push this hardware. And often it was graphics that were way beyond what was possible in a video game, because if you're playing a video game, you have to dedicate, memory and CPU cycles, etc., to the controls and to the logic and to the AI. But if you don't have to worry about any of that and it's just pure graphics, you can eke the very best performance out of the system. And what people could do with the demo scenes back in the day was incredible. So John Burton started off in the demo scene, but then he started working on games with Traveller's Tales. Pugsy was one of the earliest examples that was started on the Amiga, and that was eventually converted to the Mega Drive Genesis, that basically used some of the graphical effects that were used in these demo scene stuff, but went, okay, but how can we incorporate some of these amazing special effects in a game itself? So Pugsy was a game. Yes, it's a fun game, it's a cool game, but graphically it's a super impressive game. And then Traveller's Tales then obviously got work on multiple games, licensed games, and every time anything that said Traveller's Tales in it was just one of the most impressive games on that system, especially the Mega Drive versions. Often there were Super Nintendo versions which had to have some downgrades because the Super Nintendo had a slower in inverted commas. Somebody will try and correct me on that because it's not always slow, but mostly slower CPU, and a lot of the tech things that were going on were uniquely utilizing the Motorola 68000, which was the CPU of both the Amiga and the Genesis Mega Drive, and also amazing top spec arcade hardware like the CPS 1 and 2 and or at least the CPS 1 and the one of Konami's top boards. I can't remember what it was called. The Sega 16 board, and even the Neo Geo The legendarily powerful Neo Geo even used a Motorola 68000. So, yeah, if you could become a programming wizard and learn how to make the 68000 your bitch, you could do all kinds of things which other programmers could not even dream of. And John Burton was absolutely top of his game. So once he started working on licensed games for the 16-bit hardware, you had games like Sonic 3D. The Mega Drive version of Sonic 3D managed to get FMV running on a cartridge. What? Managed to have pre-rendered graphics Donkey Kong Country style working on the Mega Drive, despite the fact that the Mega Drive had a much lower color palette and could put much less colors on screen at the same time. But there was workarounds, and oh my god, that game looked amazing. Toy Story. The Mega Drive version of Toy Story did some incredible things, again with pre-rendered sprites, but also a first-person shooter Doom-style BSP level, a level with Outrun-style sprite scaling racing, incredible, and all kinds of rotation and scaling stuff going on in Traveller's Tales games on the 16-bit platforms. And then when they moved to the 32 and 64-bit platforms, you got some incredible hardware pushing stuff like Sonic R, like Toy Story 2. And Traveller's Tales eventually made Lego Star Wars. Now before that, we'd had Lego games. Lego games were great. Well, I say that. Some Lego games were great. Lego Island, for example. Lego Racers. The Lego Dig game, I can't remember what it was called. The one that was underground. It was like a strategy game. That was really cool. But the thing was with early Lego games, they had no consistency because they were made by different development teams every single time. So just having Lego on the game was no indication of quality, and was no indication of what the game was going to be like. And you can see that with Lego Racers 1 and Lego Racers 2. They were both good games, but came from completely different developers, and therefore a lot of what made Lego Racers 1 really cool was not present in Lego Racers 2 because it was a different development team coming from a different angle. And the same can be said of Lego Island 1 and 2. Lego Island is one of the most beloved games of all time. Now, for me personally, I'm a bit older than people who grew up with Lego Island. I never played it. I actually played Lego Island 2 first on the PS1. I got it for my kids, and then I started playing it, or they started playing it, and I was watching them play it, and I go, oh, hang on, this looks really cool. And I really love Lego Island 2. But it's very different to Lego Island 1. And for many people, Lego Island 1 is the better game. There's all kinds of reasons. People have made entire kind of 2, 3, 4 hour long videos breaking down why Lego Island 1 is such a classic. And there's people trying to decompile it, and there's people trying to make modern versions of it. And there's, it's just one of those games that people still study to this day. But Lego games, what I'm trying to say is there was no consistency. They were very different. Some of them were great, some of them were not great, and you never knew what you were going to get until Lego Star Wars from Traveller's Tales. Lego Star Wars, when it came out, was an absolute revelation. It was one of those things of at the time, people didn't expect licensed games to be good. Sometimes they were, and it was a nice surprise, but usually they weren't. Star Wars games, very hit and miss. Sometimes they were good, sometimes they weren't. Lego games, sometimes they were good, sometimes they weren't. Lego Star Wars came out, people weren't expecting too much. Ended up being the surprise hit of the year. People who didn't care about Lego loved it. People who didn't care about Star Wars loved it. People who loved Lego really loved it. People who loved Star Wars really loved it. And people like me who really, really love Lego and really, really love Star Wars really, 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 really loved Lego Star Wars. Because it was so good, it was so polished, it was so playable, it was great in co-op, so it was a fantastic family game, but it was also just an amazing single-player experience for an adult. It wasn't just a kid's game, and if you were into Star Wars, the humour and the way that Star Wars was used within the Lego universe was immaculately good. Everything about it was just so lovingly done. Lego Star Wars, mwah, 10 out of 10, no notes. Until Lego Star Wars 2, which was even better. And then basically it was lights out. Because from that point on, every Lego game was essentially just Lego Star Wars, but with a different property. So you had Lego Indiana Jones, and you had Lego Jurassic Park, and you had Lego Pirates of the Caribbean, and Lego Lord of the Rings, or The Hobbit, or whatever it was, and just so Lego Avengers, Lego, so many of them, and none of them were bad. All of them were basically good, but all of them were doing the same thing over and over again, and it did start becoming a bit generic, and some people were fed up of it, but other people were like, no, I know what I'm going to get. I know it's going to be a quality experience. I know that I enjoy this style of gameplay, and I like this particular property. And if you liked the IP and there was a Lego game of it, you'd want to play it. For me, that was Jurassic Park, Lego Jurassic World, because as I often mention in these episodes, for me, a game can be mid, and then you add dinosaurs into it, and suddenly it's awesome, because I freaking love dinosaurs. I mention often, but I'm autistic, and it's just one of my things. You get a mid game, you put Sonic in it, I love it. You get a mid game, you put dinosaurs in it, I love it. You get a Sonic game with dinosaurs in it, oh my god, I would pass out. So yeah, and it's kind of the same with Lego. For me, anything in Lego form automatically makes it more cool. If there's a Lego set released of something that I love, and then there's a Lego version of it, instantly I'm like, oh my god, that's the coolest thing ever. Like right now, I can't wait for the Lego DMG Game Boy. To me, that just looks incredible, and I want to buy it, I want to make it, I want to put it on display. I guess that's Nintendo adjacent. So if you're listening to this right now and you would like me to buy the DMG Game Boy and do a review of it, and maybe film I don't know, a time lapse of it being put together or something, and put it on the channel, let me know in the comments. Please do let me know in the comments, because if I am able to do a video on it, then maybe I could use it as a tax write-off, because I can say it was for work. The Lego games, absolutely brilliant. Lego Star Wars, one of the top tier, and they've just released recently Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, and you know what, it's absolutely fantastic. Even if you were starting to get a little bit stale on Lego games all being the same, even if you were starting to get a little bit stale on, okay, I like Star Wars, but Disney are just releasing too many Star Wars things. There's too many shows, there's too many films, there's too much animation, there's too much stuff coming out, there's too many games. Even if you're a bit burnt out on Star Wars, and even if you're a bit burnt out on Lego games, Lego Star Wars, the Skywalker Saga, it's just quality, just oozes out of every single bit. Now, John Burton himself, unfortunately, is no longer working on these games. He left Traveller's Tales. I'm not sure at what point he left Traveller's Tales, but I would imagine that it can't help the fact that they basically were stuck only making Lego games in the same genre, and it probably that, for somebody of his caliber, of his intelligence, of his programming ability, that must have been like a real frustration for him. He would have wanted to make kind of more original stuff. So yeah, he left to make his own studio. Although I've got to say, unfortunately, the last game that came out from him, I don't want to be too negative, but basically he made a Funko Pops game that looked basically like Lego Dimensions, but instead of it all being different IP but Lego, it was different IP but Funko Pops. And Funko Pops, some people love them, but again, I just think the world is kind of burnt out on Funko Pops, aren't they? I mean, don't get me wrong, if any of my movies or if any of my games ever get the opportunity to be made into a Funko Pop, that would be an absolute honor, and that would be amazing. But I think Funko Pops went from, in the early days, there was a lot of people that were trying to collect every single Funko Pop, like people who try and collect every Amiibo or every Skylander or every Disney Infinity figure or whatever. And fair enough to a point, but they just became ubiquitous, and there's just so many of them, and many of them felt unnecessary. And so it got to the point where I don't think there's a single person, or maybe there is, but I don't think there's many people who are trying to collect every single Funko Pop. It's more a case of, okay, you might own one or two Funko Pops of your absolute favorite character, But you don't really care when a new Funko Pop is announced unless it's something that you specifically adore. For me, I really like the Tubbs cosplaying ducks. I think the Tubbs cosplaying ducks are really, really cool. But again, if they started releasing a new Tubbs cosplaying duck literally every month, I'd get bored of it pretty quickly and I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm not interested anymore. But at the moment, they're not doing that. They're just releasing them very slowly and for real iconic things. Like the last Tubbs cosplaying duck that I bought was the Jaws one. And that was just really, really neat to have a duck cosplaying as a shark. This is just so sweet. It's really, really cute. So that's the last one that I bought. I'm sure they've released ones after that. But anyway, Funko Pops themselves, a lot of people literally hate Funko Pops nowadays because they see them as being too similar to each other and the art style as being too generic and feeling a bit soulless, a bit corporate, a bit, oh, we're just putting, it's bad for the environment, it's a waste of plastic, lots of negativity surrounding Funko Pops. But I'm sure he got offered to basically go, can you make a Lego game, but it's not Lego, it's Funko Pops instead. And I'm sure he was offered a huge amount of money, and I don't begrudge him for accepting it. And I'm sure that his Funko Pops game is really high quality because John Burton has never released a game that wasn't really high quality. But I'm sorry, I'm still not going to play it. I have no interest. So yeah, that was a big rant about Lego games and about Traveller's Tales in general and about John Burton. And like I say, nowadays, John Burton is not involved and it's no longer called Traveller's Tales. It's called TT Games, but they still make Lego games and they're still basically the same. If you've played any of the previous Lego games after Lego Star Wars, you know what to expect. Oh, Harry Potter! I didn't even mention Harry Potter before, but yeah, that was a huge one, and that was a really, really good one. I didn't actually play that one myself, but one of my best friends in the whole world, actually, the same person that I mentioned earlier, who I'm developing the Metroidvania for, she was streaming on Twitch, and she is just a really big Harry Potter fan. So I bought her the Lego Harry Potter games so that she could stream them, and we just had so much fun with her streaming, and she would cosplay as a Harry Potter characters and do all the voices because she's also a voice actress. She does fantastic voice acting for many, many projects. The only reason I'm not mentioning her name here is because I haven't asked her permission to mention her in this, but I'm sure she'd be fine with it. But I'm just being careful out of respect for the sake of it. But yeah, she's a prolific voice actress and artist and incredible talent. But yeah, she was streaming for a while because of COVID and things like this, and she streamed Lego Harry Potter, did all the voices, cosplayed, and it was just such a fun time. And I moderated those streams, and I will never forget how cool that was, going through the entire kind of Harry Potter story from start to finish. And this was before all the controversy. I don't want to get into it now, but this was before all the controversy with Harry Potter. This was back when it was okay and you could talk about Harry Potter and you wouldn't get people jumping in and trying to bring up politics and things. It was before all that. It was a more innocent time, the early days of COVID. The world has gone steadily downhill after that, hasn't it? But we don't have to get depressed because even if the world is going to hell, we have cool, exciting announcements, and one of those is Lego Batman: The Legacy of the Dark Knight. Am I excited for this? Oh yes. Oh yes. I just said that Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga is one of, if not the best Lego game, certainly the best in recent memory. I think Lego Batman Legacy of the Dark Knight could be even better. I am an enormous Star Wars fan, and some of you will know in real life I also sometimes work on Star Wars projects, official Star Wars projects, and I love Star Wars, and I love so many people involved with it. I love so many people at LucasArts. They're great people. But also I work on a lot of superhero movies and superhero stuff, and I mean, I love Marvel, but if you asked me to name my favorite superhero franchise in general, out of all the mainstream ones, not talk about indie stuff, I would probably go with Batman. I was a Batman kid throughout my whole life. Batman and Spider-Man and X-Men, and there's a lot, but Batman was like the first one that I remember completely falling in love with. And that's partially probably because of my age. Growing up in the 80s, the classic 1960s TV show was shown all the time on TV, and growing up as a kid, you watch it all the time. And then when the Tim Burton Batman movie came out in 1989, oh my goodness me, that was like the coolest movie that had ever existed at the time. And also it was like really grimdark, and for a kid, like, you know, my parents wouldn't even let me watch it, but I would sneakily watch it at friends' houses and things, and I had the toys, and it was just everything about that was so cool, the aesthetic. And then you know, Tim Burton making Batman Returns and just ramping up everything about it, just ramping up the kind of grimdark, kooky, weird, scary, alternate Tim Burton-ness, Tim Burton-esque art, and just making everything grotesque and weird, and just, some people don't like Batman Returns because they think it took the Tim Burton-ness too far, but for me it's probably my favorite Batman movie, just because it's so Tim Burton. I love me some Batman Returns, and again, at the time, my parents wouldn't let me watch it, but I watched the heck out of it. Again, I had all the toys, and Batman Returns had some kick-ass video games. It was back in the day when video games, a licensed video game, if you wanted to license it, you would actually have to pay for a separate license depending on what system you were releasing for. And that was amazing, because what that meant was you could get a game called Batman Returns on the Mega Drive, and it would be a different game to the Super Nintendo, and it would be a different game to the Amiga, and different to the PC, and different to the Atari Lynx, and different to the Game Gear and the Master System and the Game Boy. So you and the PC, and you would end up with, if you were a fan of Batman Returns, there was probably, well, I don't know how many, I haven't counted, but there was at least 10 different games called Batman Returns. I think there was even one in the arcade, and the Mega CD version was different to the Mega Drive version. It was incredible. It was an incredible time to be a Batman fan if you were into video games at that time. And it was the same with like Jurassic Park when that came out. There were like a million games called Jurassic Park, and they were all different. That was just so cool. And yeah, after that we got, you know, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin, and, you know, especially Batman and Robin, people will rag on and say, oh, it's one of the worst movies ever made, and I'll be like, yeah, okay, sure, but, you know, there's things to like about them. They're just very, very different. But then we had the Dark Knight trilogy. We had obviously Batman Begins, The Dark Knight, and The Dark Knight Rises, the trilogy from Chris Nolan. I don't know Chris Nolan. I've met him a couple of times, but not actually spoken to him properly. But somebody that I have spoken to at length is Paul Franklin, who was the visual effects supervisor of the entire Dark Knight trilogy, and also various other Chris Nolan films, including Inception and Interstellar, etc. And he ran a couple of visual effects courses and lectures, and was very, very gracious. I attended those courses and lectures, and I met up with him and afterwards at the Guardian newspaper in London. Again, I feel like I'm name dropping and stuff. I'm not really trying to show off, but what I am trying to say is I talked to him at length about the Dark Knight trilogy films, and about various shots, and nerding out and geeking out about how certain things were made, and he relayed a lot of information to me about Chris Nolan as a director, and how he approached things and things. And it's actually, the reason why I mention this is I mentioned that I've worked on superhero movies. I'm actually producing a superhero and directing a superhero movie right now. It hasn't been announced yet. It will be announced at a Comic-Con soon, but very, very big project, biggest project I've ever worked on in any large capacity. Obviously, as I said, I've worked on Star Wars projects and things, but obviously I didn't direct them and things like this. So for me to be directing a superhero movie, my God, it's an enormous thing. And that is all thanks to Paul F. Franklin, and that very first conversation that I had with him at the Guardian newspaper after he did this lecture. And he was so gracious and gave me so much time and gave me so much information and inspiration, but also talked to me about my own career. At the time I was producing like low budget straight to DVD movies and stuff, and he was like, why are you wasting your time doing this? Why not do what Gareth Edwards is doing with, making monsters and making a low budget movie, but doing all the visual effects himself and producing it as if it's a Hollywood movie, but making it on a low budget and then selling it to a Hollywood production company. And then because it did well, he got to make Godzilla. And then because Godzilla did well, he got to make Star Wars. And Paul Franklin was giving me all this advice, and I just came away so inspired. And frankly, I wouldn't be in my career where I am right now if it wasn't for that advice. And ironically, I ended up actually working on Rogue One, which was Gareth Edwards' Star Wars movie. So it all came full circle, because it was at the time when I had that conversation with Paul Franklin, it was Gareth Edwards has only just been announced as the director. It was long before shooting had started. But the reason why I mention all of this is to talk about the Dark Knight trilogy and to say that I love the Dark Knight trilogy. I would say it's not aesthetically my favorite. Aesthetically, my favorite is the Tim Burton stuff, but that's not to say that cinematically, aesthetically, they aren't great films, because they are. They're incredible. They're amazing. And the VFX stuff, especially, nod, nod, wink, wink, Paul. But yeah, no, the VFX is incredible. But also there's so many practical effects in those movies as well. They're great. And the cinematography is incredible. I don't know who the cinematographer was for those movies. I really should credit them, but I don't know. But my point is, from a stylistic standpoint, the Dark Knight trilogy is incredible because, for me, they probably did the best job of taking the Batman comics, or certainly, the Dark Knight era comics, and making a cinematic version of them. And you might be saying, why are you giving all these opinions? We just want to hear about the game. But this game, from what I can tell, from the screenshots that I've seen, and also just from the name, my prediction is that when I watch obviously maybe I'll watch the trailer and I'll be wrong, but my prediction is that this is basically going to be a game mostly based on the Dark Knight trilogy. I mean, probably will have a lot of nods in there to other Batman films. If you want my rough opinion on the new stuff, I love the Joker. The first Joker I thought was great. I don't know whether that counts or whether it's considered spin-off. Folie à Deux was a weird experiment. But the Batman, the one with Twilight dude, Robert Pattinson, I really liked that. I thought that was great. I thought that went a little bit back to the kind of detective noir roots of Batman, because don't forget, Batman is DC, and DC, if you don't know, stands for Detective Comics, because in the very, very early starting days of DC, it was all comics about detectives and kind of pulp noir fiction style stuff. So the earliest kind of Batman stuff was more along that lines, and I thought that the Batman, the film called The Batman, actually brought some of that back, and that was really cool. So I'm really interested in seeing the new Penguin film when that comes out, etc., etc. As I said, Batman Returns is probably my favorite film, and obviously that one's centered around the Penguin, so it'll be interesting to see the new version of the Penguin. But yeah, no, really, 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 really cool. I'm talking a lot, but I'm going to do the live reaction to the trailer. I don't really know what to say, what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping we're going to have lots of humour. I'm hoping we're going to have lots of references to the entire Batman canon. But let's be honest, this is a Lego game from Traveller's Tales. That's exactly what we're going to get. So let's just do the reaction and then we'll talk about it afterwards. That's hilarious. Nice. Ooh. Those ducks are very, very Batman Returns-ish. And that's very Tim Burton-ish. But yes, this looks like it's... Right, obviously it's going to start kind of Batman Begins style with the League of Shadows style stuff and becoming Batman in the first place. God, that looks beautiful. Okay, yeah, I like the visual sound effects, like the old 1960s Batman. That's cool. That's really cool. Who are you? Batman. I'm Batman. Is that Will Arnett? Please tell me that's Will Arnett doing the voice.
Why so serious? get nuts? Let's get nuts.
Let's get nuts. Wanna get nuts? Let's get nuts. Yeah, this is but that all looks a little bit I was literally just about to say this looks very Dark Knight Trilogy, but yeah, there was a bit there that looked like Batman Forever. But yeah, obviously the Batmobile is... Oh no, that's the Batmobile, isn't it? See, I thought the Batmobile version before looked like the Dark Knight Batmobile, but this Batmobile that we're seeing now looks like the Batmobile. Maybe there's both. Maybe there's a mix of them. If it covers the entire history of Batman, yeah, man. Ah, that looks sick. Looks absolutely sick.
You think darkness is your ally? You merely adopted the dark.
Is that Matt Berry?
Molded by... Who put that there?
Oh, that's great.
Really hurt myself.
Yeah, that is that. Yeah, 100%. That's Matt Berry. Okay, that's hilarious. Oh, that is amazing casting. Matt Berry as Bane. Ah, classic era, golden age. Nice. And you don't even have to pre-order or pay DLC to get that. You just have to sign up for a WB account. Which, I mean, some people won't want to sign up for a WB account, but I mean, you know, why not set up a fake email or something? Yeah, that's cool. Okay, right. So, what do I have to say? I've already talked a hell of a lot in the run-up, so I don't think there's too much I need to say there. I don't think... yeah, from what I can tell, it's mostly retelling the story of the Dark Knight trilogy and then moving on to the Batman. So, I mean, that makes sense because Dark Knight trilogy started with, you know, Batman Begins. It's like, okay, the origins of Batman and then following it through. But very much I noticed a lot of the shots there were recreating shots from the Dark Knight trilogy, but there was definite elements of the Tim Burton movies. There was one shot that looked very much like Batman Forever to me. Maybe I'm just misinterpreting that. I'd have to rewatch the trailer again. But yeah, it felt like that. And obviously, if you've got a classic era suit as well, yeah, this is going to be nodding to the entire Batman canon, or at least the entire Batman film canon. Because the classic 60s era did get its own film, if you don't know, which is hilarious. Batman kicks a shark at some point, which is very, very funny to me. Also, just brief personal story. My mum, when she was a teenager, one of her first jobs was cleaning up in the local cinema, being an usher and cleaning in the local cinema after each film finished. She had to go in there and, you know, clean up the popcorn off the floor and clean up the rubbish. And she said that she didn't do that job very long, but when she did, it was during the time when Batman the movie, the 1960s movie, was there. So she ended up seeing that same film over and over again, and she knows nothing about that. She knows nothing about Batman, and she has no desire to learn anything new about Batman, because she got so fed up with it. But yeah, she does know that film because she's seen that film probably 100 times. Because obviously she would wait in between showings of the film. She'd just sit there twiddling her thumbs while the film was on. So that's funny to me, the fact that you know, I work in superhero movies, and even when I was a kid, I loved superhero stuff and superhero comics, and I watched obviously the Batman the animated series. How could I have not even mentioned that in my preamble? Batman the animated series. Oh my god, that was one of the best animated series of all time. It's just so good. The psychological elements that they covered with that, and the writing in that show is just beyond the writing of almost any other. I mean, I talked, you know, when we were talking about the He-Man game in the last episode, you know, obviously I talked about how you had, like, in my childhood at least, the big thing was He-Man, and then that was replaced by the real Ghostbusters, and maybe Transformers as well in the middle of that, kind of Transformers and the real Ghostbusters, and then that was replaced by Ninja Turtles, and then Ninja Turtles was replaced by Power Rangers, and then Power Rangers was replaced by Pokemon. If you had to pick like one franchise that was like defining the generation at the time, but obviously there's so many other cool little ones as well. But I mean, yeah, with all of those shows, you go back to them nowadays, and some of them it's okay, or some of them the writing is good. Like, I'd argue maybe season 1 of the real Ghostbusters had some really good writing in there, but I can't think of another Saturday morning style show of that era that had the writing caliber of Batman the Animated Series. I know it's a little bit later. It was kind of, I don't know exactly when it was, mid-90s, I suppose. But yeah, it's just amazing. But yeah, get back on subject of the game, Sam. Sorry. Batman is something I could ramble on about for ages. I just think it's funny that, me as a kid who was obsessed with superheroes, obsessed with Batman, especially collected all the Batman toys, secretly watched the Batman movies when I wasn't allowed to, and just became like a lifelong Batman fan after that, and nowadays works in superhero movies. And although I've never personally worked on a Batman project, I know tons of it, not just Paul Franklin, but I know tons of people who've worked on Batman movies nowadays because of my professional life. I love Batman. Well, I would love the opportunity to one day work on a Batman project. Obviously that would be a dream. But it's just funny to me that my mum kind of hates Batman, but the reason why she hates Batman is because when she was a teenager, she was forced to watch the Batman movie over and over and over and over and over again when working as an usher in a cinema. And that's just very, very funny to me. Talking about the game, obviously I don't have too much to say. What can you say about the gameplay of a Lego game? That all of these games are all basically the same in how they play, but I did get vibes of the Arkham series, which is a very good thing. Obviously, the Arkham series is amazing. It's interesting. I don't know whether I was getting those vibes just because of the setting and everything else, or if this Lego game will be maybe slightly less 100% rigidly following the formula of the Lego games and incorporating some elements of the Arkham games as well. If so, that will be a very good thing, in my opinion. But even if it's just as generic a Lego game as you can possibly get, I love this type of game, especially when it's an IP that I like, and it looks like they've got the humor absolutely down pat. They've certainly got the look down pat. It looks fantastic. And one thing that I noticed, how I mentioned that it's a good thing, in my opinion, that it's releasing on the Switch 2 and not releasing on the Switch 1, because it means they don't have to limit the graphics as much and they can be a little bit more next gen. One thing I noticed, do you remember when the Lego movie came out? Firstly, Lego movie, incredible, one of the best licensed movies of all time. And again, absolutely had no business being as good as it was. It's one of those things, if everybody thought it was going to be terrible, but yeah, we'll go watch it because, we grew up playing Lego, we love Lego, why not? And for me, with the age that I am, I had kids at the time, and I was like, well, obviously I'm going to take my kids to watch the Lego movie, but I wasn't expecting it to be that good. And then it turned out to be one of the best kids movies ever made. Lord and Miller, fair play. But do you remember when that movie came out? One of the things that everybody was remarking on was it felt like the Lego, what's it called, Brickmation, where people do stop motion animation with Lego. A lot of people looked at it at the time and they thought it wasn't CG. They actually thought that this had been created with real Lego. And of course, me as somebody who does animation and somebody who's in the industry, I was like, no, it's absolutely not. That is 100% CGI animation. It's CGI just like a Shrek movie, just like a Toy Story movie, but they just happen to be using models that are made out of Lego. But there was two reasons why people thought it was real, why people thought it was stop motion. One was because they were very careful with the physics of it, and the bricks and everything only move like Lego can move. Previously, 3D CG versions of Lego had been fairly loose with let's imagine that these Lego characters, these minifigures, are real organic creatures and they are moving like real organic creatures move. So they had knees, they had elbows, they had, fingers in the way that their claws of hands could move and everything. Whereas the Lego movie went, no, let's have the same restrictions that the toys have, of the only way that these models can move is in the same way that the toys can move in real life. And the only exceptions were the facial expressions. Obviously, you have fully animated facial expressions, but No, when they move, they just move like the toys. So they don't have knees because Lego minifigures don't have knees. They don't have elbow joints or wrist joints because the minifigures don't have elbow joints or wrist joints. They just, their claws can spin around. So that's what they can do in the movie. Really, really, really good call. Really good call. But the other good call, and the thing that made people think it was real, was CGI at the time often looked very shiny and very perfect, but they went out of their way to make the Lego bricks within that universe, within the movie, look played with. And like sometimes there were even teeth marks where like your little brother or your little sister had chewed on it, or there were bits that were like chipped off, and there was dust and there were fingerprints. And I noticed that very much when I was watching the trailer. I was like, oh, okay. So that thing that we were impressed by back in the day on a CGI movie, it was impressive. A CGI rendered movie, it was impressive that these Lego bricks looked real because they had, chips and fingerprints and the light reflected off it. And you could see that when the light was reflecting off it, you could see that there was tiny little scuffs and stuff on the bricks as if they were played with. And that was impressive for a CGI movie, to the point that back then, it doesn't seem like that long ago to me, maybe because I'm old, but it doesn't seem like that long ago when the Lego movie came out. Back then, we were impressed that a CGI rendered movie had that level of detail. Whereas now, it's just, we've got that level of detail in video games. And I was talking about this in Donkey Kong Bonanza as well, in my Donkey Kong Bonanza review. The level of facial animation and squash and stretch and expressiveness of the characters in DK Bonanza is more than was possible back when Pixar were making their first movies. And back then, when Pixar were making their first CG animated stuff, Toy Story, yes, but I'm thinking about, just before Toy Story, stuff like, Tin Toy and all around that era. Back then, they would have killed for the type of technology that is now being used in DK Bonanza. But not just that, each frame of animation, and bear in mind that animation is usually 12 frames per second or sometimes even 24 frames per second. Each frame of animation at that time on a Silicon Graphics workstation could take an hour to render. So it could take an entire day for a computer to render a second's worth of animation on something like Toy Story. And often the computers would crash halfway through. So it was ridiculous. You had to have hundreds or even thousands of these computers constantly rendering all the time, and it was such a slow process. Now we have better graphics in real time on consoles, and not just on consoles, but on a Nintendo Switch too, which is a portable console, which is basically old mobile phone and tablet technology to make it affordable and to make it fit inside a tablet and to make it have decent battery life. It is incredible how far technology has progressed. But what I'm saying about the Lego Batman, it looks great. The graphics look amazing. The art design and the art direction looks great. The gameplay, we know it's going to be good. We know it's going to be fairly generic and like every other game, but we know it's going to be fun. It looks like they might have some interesting elements in there to make it slightly less generic than usual. I'm definitely looking forward to playing it. The humor is brilliant. And as I said, I'm 100% sure that was Matt Berry doing the voice of Bane. And I'm not sure I could have picked a better character casting than that. I'm not sure I would have thought of that. If you'd have said to me who should play Matt Berry in a Lego Batman movie, I'm not sure I would have come up with Matt Berry. But the second I heard it, 100%, that is the right casting. That's perfect. I don't know if it's Will Arnett that did the voice of Batman himself, or he would be very expensive, so I don't know. But either way, whoever was doing it seemed to be doing a really good job. Obviously, I was talking over it at the same time, so I will rewatch it later and gain more opinions. But I will definitely 100% be buying this game, and I will 100% be putting a full review out when it comes. Unfortunately, we don't have a release date yet, but yes, I am very much looking forward to this. So if you're not already, subscribe to the channel, because I will be talking about it more, and it will be covering it. Sorry, I feel like I've talked about a lot of things that were not related to the game, but I was just talking kind of about Batman in general and about the movie industry and everything else. But if you're interested in those kind of anecdotes, I get sidetracked and I give those kind of stories all the time on this channel. So So yeah, if you find that kind of stuff interesting, yes, I do produce my own video games, but I also work in the movie industry, and I'm directing a superhero movie, and I work in comic books, and I know a lot of people who work on these things. So maybe that's what makes Daily Switch to a unique podcast, because I'm not just giving you the news. I can give some context from somebody who's at least vaguely connected, at least vaguely in the know. And I'm an old bugger, so I've been around since the 1980s working on stuff like this. So yeah, I know about the context of a lot of the history of some of these things as well. So often I will talk about retro games. Again, like I did, we're talking about the retro games based on Batman. So if you're interested in that kind of extra context, then maybe this channel is one to subscribe to. And if I'm preaching to the choir and you're one of my regular subscribers, regular listeners, thank you very much. I really do appreciate it. I hope you have considered joining our free members area, linktree/dailyswitch2, linktr.ee/dailyswitch2. There is a free members area that you can join, and we do monthly competitions and giveaway stuff, but you can also come and talk to me as well. But we have free Nintendo prizes which we give away every month, and it's just fun. It's just fun to have a nice little hangout, and I'm hoping it's going to grow. We've just hit 1,000 subscribers. Again, thank you so much. I can't believe we're at 1,000 subscribers. I hope that means that we can start growing the members area and start doing some cool stuff on there, like meetups and exclusive giveaways, and maybe people can come and test out my games or get discounts on products that I release or invitations to movie premieres, whatever. Yeah, come and join the members area. It's free. Linktree/dailyswitch2, linktr.ee/dailyswitch2. Now, what was next? Right, that was the original 40-minute clip that I removed from the full episode. I did ramble a little bit, didn't I? If you listened all the way to the end, thank you, and I hope you enjoyed it. But you probably see why it wouldn't have made sense to leave it in the middle of another episode where the other games only got like 5 to 10 minutes each. That's the peril of doing off-the-cuff, unscripted reaction videos, I guess. But hey, it's all more content to feed the algorithm. And you can help feed it too by liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. What's your favourite Lego game or your favourite Batman movie? I would genuinely love to know. As you can tell, I love talking about this stuff. Probably a little too much. Lol. Okay. Thanks again for listening. Genuinely mean it. Hope to hear from you soon. Later.